Many thanks and welcome everyone this morning to the Dumfries and Galloway Harbours Subcommittee on Thursday the 2nd of September. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through the Council's website. Can I remind everyone to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their videos when you're not addressing the meeting. For those of you attending virtually who wish to contribute to any item, should you write speak in the Teams chat function and you'll be invited to speak in order about new issues. I will also try and keep an eye out for any hands popping up because I appreciate some members find that an easier way to join in. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business as effectively as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be taken by roll call, and if any members have to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you can write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you come back. This will allow us to record members' presence. Please do not use the chat function for any contributions that are material to debates. We have several important reports to consider, and I anticipate we will deal with the business in our usual efficient manner. So I will move on to the first item, which is our sediment and apologies and the Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Considering I am chairing remotely, I'm happy to approve that one. But do we have any apologies?
Morning members, we've got 5 members present. I have 2 apologies from Councillor Brodie and Councillor Drysdale. We've got 1 substitute, Councillor Maitland, substituting for Councillor Brodie, and 1 member not present is Councillor Giusty. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Moving on to item 2, any declarations of interest? Do any members wish to declare any interests? I don't see anything coming up. Okay, so item number 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting of the 1st of April, and this item is for noting. Are members happy to note that meeting?
Happy to note.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Now, moving on to item number 4, our first substantive item on the agenda. We have the Port Marine Safety Code, which is the approval of the Marine Safety Management System, and we have a report by the Heads of Roads and Infrastructure. I know we have Will Jones here as our Regional Harbour Master, and Will, I'll open it up to yourself first of all if there's anything you wish to add to the report.
Thanks very much, Chair. No, nothing to add to the report. We have consulted with legal, however, just to take a look at the safety management system and in conjunction with the designated person, and we're happy with a few very minor edits.
Okay, thank you. Do any members have any questions? I'll open it up. Councillor Young, I've got a hand up from yourself.
Thank you, Chair. A very comprehensive report, this. Looking forward to page 31, we've got the organisation chart, Chair, page 31. Now, the designated person will, of course, be William Heap. We are the duty holders, the Harbour Subcommittee. I'd imagine Stephen Herriot's Chief Officer. I'd imagine James MacLeod is the designated Infrastructure Manager. Will Jones is the Regional Harbour Master. Do we have people in the 4 posts below that, or are these going to be anticipated posts?
Will, are you able to come in on that one, please?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Councillor Johnson. Yes, so as you alluded to, we have the designated person, top right-hand side, William Heaps, who has just been reappointed under a new contract. So Marico Marine won the new tender. We have Chief Officer for the Council Harbours, Stephen Herriot, as you say, James MacLeod, myself under there. Now, further down the tree, we have senior harbour assistants, 2 of those, and a harbour observer, Maccas, and another senior harbour assistant, all on the same row. Those are currently in post. The 2 harbour assistants below that, we don't have anybody in those posts at the moment.
Do you wish to come back, Councillor Young?
No, I'm reassured that these posts are in place. I'm just wondering, could you actually have the names of the 4 post holders below yourself, Will?
You certainly can, yes. Senior Harbour Assistant Kirkcudbright is Robbie Garside. Senior Harbour Assistant Stranraer is Leslie Smith. Harbour Observer in the Maccas is Sean Maguire. And the Senior Harbour Assistant, which is not specific to Kirkcudbright or Stranraer because it's a role which requires work at both harbours, is Owen Figgis.
Thank you, Will. I've got Councillor Johnston looking to come in. Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. It's as has been said, it's quite a detailed document we've got here. But the only slight concerns I've got with it is that if you take, for example, 2.5.6 auditing at regular intervals, hydrographic surveys, I was like, where does it come in on the detail as how regularly these things have got to be done? It's all up to however long. It's the same with the defects on mooring buoys and things like that. Does the regime for checking this come into normal working practice rather than be part of this document? Where is that mentioned? Also, when we go into mooring guidelines, we've got some detailed stuff there about what type of chain, buoys, risers to use, everything like that. There's nothing on there that actually says what it's got to be attached to on the bottom. So again, that was a bit curious. I was a wee bit curious about that. The next thing with that as well is I understand it is the duty of and it's in the terms and conditions for the people using the moorings to maintain them properly, but I would have feel a bit more comfortable if there was some kind of monitoring done on that. So where does these sort of aspects appear?
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I do see that we've got William Heaps on with his hand up, and I just wanted to welcome William back to the committee. Obviously, he has been appointed as the designated person, and yes, I'm delighted to have you back at committee, William. Are you wishing to come in on this? And then I'll maybe bring Will in if there's any other issues that are outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me to talk. Yes, I'm very happy to answer it. I may be jumping the gun and speaking for Will, but I just wanted to reassure the councillor that the document you're reviewing is the high level policy, and all the details he's inquiring about are detailed in 2 further documents that are maintained by the harbour master and the senior assistants, with just the details he's looking at, down to sort of chain sizes and frequencies of surveys and where records will be kept. So there are 2 more detailed documents available.
Thank you, William. Will, are you able to come in on those points, please?
Yeah, for sure, Chair. Thank you very much. And questions I would expect from an experienced mariner such as Councillor Johnson. And yeah, very valid points. And of course, as the DP's just alluded to, we do have the 2 other parts of the safety management system which go into the minutiae of what we do and when we do it. The 2 specific examples stated by Councillor Johnson, hydrographic surveys is a conservancy thing which is usually set at 5 years. So we aim to do hydrographic surveys unless there's a reason to do them more frequently than that, such as a marina expansion. We would do every 5 years, and we are due one next year in Kirkcudbright. And as to drying moorings, the terms and conditions state that it is the duty of the berth holder to maintain the mooring. However, we do go for a bit of belt and braces, as the other two documents, parts 2 and 3, do suggest. We do seasonal checks in spring and in the autumn before the start of the winter and then before the start of the summer season. One, because in autumn the winter is coming, we want to check that everything's safe. In the spring, because we want to check that nothing's deteriorated before people actually put boats on moorings. But there are safety checks conducted by the staff on the dry moorings, as well as the obligation of the berth holder to replace all the kit on the mooring. As to the attachment to the actual planet of the kit, that the riser chains that the berth holder puts on themselves, we have ground chains and concrete blocks, depending on which harbour it is, that run underneath the dry moorings.
Thanks, Will. Malcolm, is that okay for you? Would you like to come back again?
No, that's good. Like I said when I was asking the questions, I did slightly presume that there was a bit of detail about the actual regime. And to be quite honest, I'd find it quite helpful if I could have that circulated, I think. Just for my own comfort, given the position on the Harbour Committee, I would like, for my own comfort, just to have a wee look at that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, are you able to organise that? And I think for all the members, just so we've got that level of detail, if possible, please.
I've noted that down as an action point.
Thank you. Councillor Maitland, I have you looking to come in, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It was going back to the question about the staffing. Can I be assured that we fill vacancies as soon as we possibly can after they become available? Can I be assured of that, please?
Will, can you advise, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor. We do, and I'm not going to try and tell you that during my time we've been fully staffed all the time, because there are inevitable slight dearths in employment and recruitment. But yes, we do fill roles as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Jane, you wish to come back on? I mean, I appreciate, Will, what you're saying, and I mean, certainly it's a concern that I too have in terms of vacancies. As long as we're advertising those, we can't predict the market. I appreciate there are sometimes difficulties in filling positions, but I think we do have to be proactive in at least seeking out those positions to be filled. But Councillor Maitland, are you wishing to come back at any points?
No, that's absolutely fine. As long as we're doing that, as long as there is a drive, as soon as there's a vacancy, we should be out there advertising for suitable people.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't have any other members looking to come in. I'll just pause briefly for a second, just in case anybody wishes to come in. Nope. Okay, so if we move to the recommendations on item 4, so our first recommendation is to agree to the approval of the final version of the Marine Safety Management System. Are we happy to approve this document?
Agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. And our second point is to note the award of the designated person's contract for the period of the 1st of September 21 through to the 31st of August 2024 to Marico Marine. And welcome once again to William Heaps from Marico. Are we happy to note this award?
Agreed.
Thank you. Now, moving on to item number 5. Item number 5 is the Harbours Matters, and it's the Stranraer Harbour Revision Order update and financial position and current and proposed capital works. We do have Will Jones here to answer any questions on the report, but we also have Robin Fletcher, who's down here to give us an update as per the first recommendation. So, Will, is there anything that you wish to add to this point at this point, and then I'll bring Robin in, please.
Thanks, Chair. No, not currently, nothing to add.
Thank you. Robin, are you able to come in at this point? Obviously, the the Harbours Revision Order is an ongoing issue that the Harbours Subcommittee have been concerned about, and we are trying our very hardest to get this item moved along. So really appreciate you coming along and giving us an update from the legal point of view.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, some of the issues are narrated in the report at a high level of the types of things which have been looked at. There's been a great deal of progress, primarily by our colleagues in various areas of the supporting issues around this in terms of agreement with other parties to clarify that this overall arrangement is potentially workable for the operation of the Harbour Authority areas, and it's important to note it's quite radically different from the way these things are normally done, and has required quite a bit of creativity. So there's been a lot of good work on that which has been done, and agreement moved forward in most of these areas. In terms of the draft Harbour Revision Order, again, that's advanced a good deal. The areas where we need and have sought some further external input have been principally to make sure that the combination of the historic positions of what has set up the harbour in the first place and the various changes over the years, that we don't trip over anything in those. So effectively we have been sought to be very cautious in making sure that we don't end up with some residual issue coming back to haunt us at a later stage. So there's a number of areas in which that potentially is the case. There's the original ancient charter dating from, I believe, James V's time. We have had previous work done on that in a different context, and we felt that that work needed to be refreshed because that was a highly relevant factor potentially in affecting a later harbour order, although more recent legislation, say that the world moves at different paces and did in those days, but in terms of recent legislation, I'm talking about sort of 1800s, 1900s, as opposed to the original sort of 1600 stuff. But more recent legislation hasn't always fully taken account of the older position. So in cleaning out old bylaws and making sure there weren't the powers that we need going forward are apt for the purpose, we obviously needed to look at that carefully. So we're coming to the culmination of that work, and we're pursuing some specialised questions within how we finally address the original charter and how we clear out the remainder legislation. Some of that legislation came in when the railways came, obviously, to the pier at Stranraer, and some of that is still hanging around in the background, although it's not relevant to the current operations. So it's making sure that that is dealt with in the appropriate way. There can be areas where this kind of thing, even in the modern era, is not fully dealt with. We have recent experience of dealing with matters caused by EU exit, where people don't quite get the effect of existing statutes, miss something, even in the build teams and drafting bodies. So it does happen, and we want to make sure that we don't become the victims of that going forward. So during the rest of September, we're crystallising and finalising that. I would hope to be in a position where we could meet further in detail on finalisation of the order's terms in October with the teams, with a view to trying thereafter to take it forward, to actually put forward a final draft to Transport Scotland going forward. Obviously, that's contingent on nothing being found that causes us any major concerns further, but I would hope that that's the position we're in then. So that's broadly where we are and what we're currently doing, but we're bringing things very much to a head and trying to finalise things with a view to getting the final draft order ready for submission.
Thank you, Robin. Before I open it out to members, I do want to put on record how frustrating this whole getting this order put together is. So I took over the chair of the Harbours subcommittee. The first meeting was on the 5th of July 2017, and the Harbour Division order was mentioned and formed part of that committee. So we're 4 years later and we are moving at such a slow pace on this. So I really appreciate you coming to the committee today and giving us this update. And, you know, it's very good to hear that we've got, you know, actions happening in September and then further actions in October. But certainly, and I will bring in other members if they wish to come in on this, I think we need to make sure that this is a priority and done. And we're not using terms like we hope to get this done and we would like to get this done, because this really is getting to the point that, you know, it is imperative. There's key policies that we have to be adhering to, and I appreciate that it is a complex issue, but you know, it's something that the members of this committee have been calling for, that we do need to make sure that this is done. We only have 2 committees left of this council term, and certainly my preference would like to see this actually resolved by this council term, and I'm sure those sentiments are possibly echoed by other members of the committee. But I've got 2 hands coming up. I've got Councillor Young and Councillor Maitland. So I'll bring Councillor Young in first, if I may.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for mirroring the mood of the committee regarding the time this has taken. I was hoping Robin would finish off by saying by such and such a date we'll have the draft completed. I know it's another very long and complicated document. There's something personally I wonder. The Loch Ryan Ferry Navigation Committee, they meet to establish safe operating procedures. Now, are these operating procedures just an agreement, or have they any legal basis? Can they in fact be enforced?
I don't know, Robin, if this is one maybe for Will. I'll let either of you come in if you can answer that.
Yeah, I'll just say something briefly and then let Will come in, because I appreciate Will and others have longer time and experience in this, but it is principally an agreement, and all agreements obviously have ways of enforcing them because they're contractual, but obviously there has been very serious attempts to make sure that the relevant regulatory bodies are on board with this type of arrangement, and they're supporting that. So obviously this type of arrangement wouldn't be pursued unless there was an awareness that the regulatory bodies who can take regulatory action in relation to navigation issues were comfortable with the type of arrangements which are taking place. And that's been one of the things which has been going on to persuade such bodies and make them comfortable and show them in such arrangements that various matters are being covered in a satisfactory fashion, so that they are much more comfortable with those types of arrangements. That's all I would have to say on it. Pass to Will.
Thanks, Robin. Will, are you able to come in on this point as well, please?
Yeah, so the Loch Ryan Ferry Navigation Committee has been running for some years and meets periodically to discuss incidents in the loch. navigation incidents regarding the ferries. Obviously, the two ferry companies operate from further up the loch, Port of Cairnryan and Loch Ryan Port, and they have their own separate statutory harbour authorities, which have came into being since the original problems which the MAIB reported on happened. So this was one measure which was brought in to improve the navigation in Loch Ryan directly concerning the ferries. Now that committee is now going to be one of two, excuse me, is going to be one of two committees which reports to an umbrella committee under the arrangements which now have the support of the MCA and the MAIB as regards the Loch Ryan South Harbour Authority. So the two ferry company statutory harbour authorities and the Loch Ryan South Harbour Authority have an umbrella committee which has recently met for the second time, and underneath that the Loch Ryan Ferry Navigation Committee and the soon to meet for the first time Loch Ryan Marine Safety Forum report to that committee of all the statutory harbour authorities, but obviously the Ferry Navigation Committee has already been running for some time.
Councillor Young, were you wanting to come back in?
No, no, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased with that very full and comprehensive response. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maitland, you were looking to come in, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think you've gathered the mood of the committee very well. We are anxious to push this along, and it does sound to me as if there is a bit of a handle being taken on it, and we can see perhaps the end of the line. I don't know. Much easier issue. I don't know whether you want to deal with other, continue if any other member wants to talk about the proposed harbour revision order, or whether I could possibly talk about something much, much easier, which is the capital spend.
I don't have any other members looking to come in, Councillor Maitland, so go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is, forgive me for being completely parochial, it's only because I see this. I'm glad to see the drying grid scouring is being sorted out. But while observing that, there is a large crack in the harbour wall. Do we know, through you, Chairman, if Will is I'm sure he's aware of it, but do we know what's actually happening? Because there is a large crack just literally beside the drying grid in Kirkcudbright. Forgive me for the parochial nature of the question.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think it highlights the importance of observers within our harbours. So, Will, are you able to come in on this one, please?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Councillor Maitland. Yes, we certainly are aware of the crack in the harbour wall in Kirkcudbright. We have a tender for ground investigations which has been awarded. That work was supposed to start about a month ago. A company in Galloway, I believe, somewhere in the borders, won the tender for that. Due to pressure of work elsewhere, they haven't actually started those ground investigations, but we do monitor all the harbour walls, all the harbour infrastructure, full stop, for signs of such things. And obviously in the case of harbour walls and quay walls, cracking is a problem. But that crack is being monitored, amongst others, I might add, in the same area, and ground investigations hopefully will be underway shortly, but engineering design are on the case, yes.
Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Maitland. And I just wanted to check with yourself, Will. Obviously, we have got a number of substitutes on the committee, and just to confirm that all the substitutes do receive your monthly reports, which I've not mentioned, but we have got a new format for those, and it's very well comprehensively put together. So can we just confirm that everybody is receiving those monthly update reports from yourself?
assuming I have a comprehensive list of the substitutes. So I send them to Councillors Surtees, Maitland, Campbell, Thompson and McComb.
Thank you. We can double check that, make sure that that's correct. Now, I don't see anybody else looking to come in and speak on this one. So if we move to the... Oh, no, we've got Robin looking to come in. Robin, would you like to come back, please?
Thanks very much, Chair. It was just to make absolutely clear, I apologise if from my language used, committee detected any hesitance here. I can assure you that if I do nothing else within the next 2 months, it will certainly be this first. And obviously we have had a whole number of things which are not concerned with this committee to deal with, and I apologise for anything that we have contributed to in any timing problems in any of this. And I won't go into anything else which we've been doing, but I will say that it's very firmly what we are focused on, and that is our intent. And when I use language which may appear hesitant in any sense, it's a typical lawyer's concern about not giving you a misleading impression if there is an issue which we have to address, which brings forward, brings out anything. So it's the unexpected rather than the predicted. And it was not my intention to suggest that it would be, not the absolute aim to produce the results in that time.
Yeah, that's thank you, Robin, for coming to committee. I think members are very aware that there's a huge amount of pressure across the whole of the council, and we do appreciate the amount of pressure that departments and officers are under. But it is reassuring to get you to come to the committee today and to get those reassurances from you. So thank you very much for taking the time. As I say, it's been a long saga for those on the committee, and we are just keen to make sure that this gets pushed along. So much appreciated for your input today. So moving on to the recommendations, they are all for noting, and the first one is to note the current position in regards to the Stranraer Harbour Revision Order. Are we happy to note those? And obviously we agreed to receive the update at the meeting. Don't see anybody not looking to note that. We also are looking to note the development of the recruitment of casual staff, which we've not touched upon, but clearly is an important matter too. We're also noting the outturn revenue position and the current position for 21-22 as detailed in section 3.3, and we're noting the progress on the capital works as described in section 3.4. Are members happy to note all those?
Agreed.
Thank you. Now, moving on to item number 6, we have the Stranraer Marina Expansion Project, and this is a progress report. I believe we have Simon Fieldhouse here, who's here to provide a presentation and to assist if any members have any questions. So welcome to the committee, Simon. I shall perhaps hand over to yourself.
Thank you, Chair. So if members are happy, I'll throw into the presentation quickly, if it's all right if I share my screen, and then obviously happy to take any questions after that.
Thank you.
Right, I'm hoping that can members see the presentation screen?
Yeah,
We can. It's not on full screen, but we can see it fine. Thank you.
Lovely. Right, okay, let's see if I can get that just quickly on full screen. With technology being what it is, hopefully that's better.
That's us all set to go. Thanks, Simon.
Lovely. Okay. So I think colleagues have provided a few sort of bullet points. So the idea of the presentation obviously is to run through for members to give a bit of a background to the project in relation to the marina, obviously talk around the concept proposals in terms of our current position, brief members obviously on the sustainability options, projected benefits, and hopefully obviously talk around about the stakeholder engagement that we're currently undertaken. So it'll be a bit of a whistle-stop tour running through to try and make these things, and then obviously finally finishing off with current actions and next steps, just to make sure that obviously members are sighted on the direction of travel for where we go next. So moving forward, obviously what we've got is the marina, the Stranraer Marina expansion project, as members will be aware, is obviously part of the the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal. It forms one of 6 priority projects that we've got across the region. We've been working since 2020 to create obviously the strategic outline business case and the outline business case, which have been prepared to the Treasury Green Book standards. These have been presented and fed back obviously to the Economy and Resources Committee as part of the Borderlands reporting, and have been agreed by the Scottish Government and by Dumfries and Galloway Council as the route map moving forward. What we have is the last thing was obviously the outline business case, which was approved by the Scottish Government earlier this year, and obviously but is subject to the full business case, which will be moving forward. The project itself obviously sort of is there on the screen. We are looking obviously at an indicative cost of around about the £18 million for the whole project. £16 million worth of funding will be coming through the Borderlands growth deal, and £2 million I think has been earmarked from the capital reserves within the council that will obviously sort of make that £18 million total. What we have at this moment in time is obviously it is very much a concept design. We've obviously employed and worked obviously with a range of different consultants and design teams, bringing on the historical knowledge from previous projects and previous iterations of the Stranraer Marina project. But it is based on updated market demand assessment. So obviously what we're looking for is an increase in the marina sort of concept from its initial sort of 70 berths to around about 223. We're looking obviously, I believe, at new pontoons that can be accessed from the southwest corner of the harbour. We're obviously looking at addressing some of the berthing options. Most importantly to note, though, the model that we're pushing forward obviously is to be financially self-sustaining. So we are looking obviously at the marina being operating at a capacity that will sustain itself financially and not be a burden to whatever operating model we move forward with. It's worthwhile noting at this stage that obviously what we are looking for is obviously complete synergy with other projects within the area, most notably of which obviously is the project from the SWSA, which is obviously looking at creating obviously a water sports centre within the area. And hopefully, to allay sort of members' concerns, we are obviously ensuring that obviously the commercial fishing aspect that Stranraer supports at this moment in time will not be impacted at all, apart from obviously sort of potentially a bit of benefit in terms of additional manoeuvring space for boats to come in and out. So as I say, 70 berths to 223. We are looking obviously predominantly at focusing on the wet side in terms of the marina expansion, but we are acutely aware that actually what we need to be looking at is the ancillary services associated with all of those activities. So we are increasing or proposing to increase obviously the harbour office with additional facilities, increasing the boatyard, looking obviously at the service industries that can be associated with that. And there is a site allocated for a bar and restaurant, but that is not necessarily part of the marina expansion at this moment in time, but would obviously be there for future demand or need. As it says, we're looking at nearly 2 hectares of reclaimed land using dredging materials, but most importantly, I think with the harbour, we're looking obviously at how we can enhance the connectivity to the town centre to ensure obviously that it becomes more integrated into Stranraer and the regeneration that needs to happen in the area. We have obviously, as I say, it's an indicative concept design that's there. So obviously it sort of provides what we're anticipating, but obviously this is subject to finalisation through the full business case, which will be undertaken later this year. And just to make members aware, obviously, given the climate emergency declaration that the council entered into back in 2019, we have taken a significant step forward to look at ensuring that our outline business case factored in sustainability at its core in terms of operating models, how we can obviously reduce our carbon footprint. And we are just working at this moment in time with the Scottish Government to look at how we can bring carbon accounting into obviously all of the business cases for the Borderlands proposition. So it is something that we are being under more scrutiny to ensure that obviously we can look at the whole project life cycle carbon costs. So in terms of the projected benefits from the project, we've obviously just provided a few here. We're looking obviously at potentially, an additional 20,000 visitors per year. We are looking in the region, if we obviously got our modelling right, around about 30 full-time equivalent jobs. The additionality to the local economy, we're looking almost at a cost-benefit ratio analysis of around about 2 to 1 in terms of the amount of money that we're investing for the actual sort of return. So we're hoping obviously sort of, a return of 35.4 million. In terms of the construction, obviously there is going to be significant construction opportunities, and we are anticipating around about 180 jobs per year. But we are also looking at other opportunities that how the marina would tie into other projects to look at obviously training, skills, development, and obviously whether we can actually utilise the marina as more of a catalyst for a one waterfront approach, which has been discussed with partners. So in terms of stakeholder engagement, we've obviously been pushing at this moment in time with our partners locally. So the SWSA have been involved with us. They feed in. We have a small steering group to make sure that obviously both projects align, that we've got the ability to avoid any duplication, have the opportunity to ensure obviously that we're looking at facilities, shared facilities, and how we might operate the marina moving forward. We've got obviously additional engagement with Scottish Government and the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal PMO. We've also sort of undertaken a small community engagement process where we saw static displays in the right or in one of the centres within Stranraer, the Millennium Centre, that obviously sort of provided a bit of detail in terms of what we're doing. We are anticipating as part of the whole planning process that the pre-planning stage will require us to sort of look at a significant public consultation and engagement process once we've got a finalised design. And we are obviously at this moment in time ensuring that we talk to a wide range of stakeholders to ensure that we are, factoring in all views as possible moving forward. So in terms of where we are at this moment in time, some local members may be aware that obviously we've had significant work going underway in terms of ground investigation work. So we can obviously look at the marine and dry side to ensure obviously that we're completely aware of what we're digging into and obviously the requirements. We've produced an environmental impact assessment that's been undertaken initially, and obviously we are at this moment in time working with procurement and legal to secure a design team which will obviously help move things forward and support the development of the full business case, including all of the technical competencies and aspects that we need to be factoring in on that. So, as I say, obviously what we need to do, we've got obviously still the full business case comprise the next piece of work that we're really looking for in terms of sort of big chunks of work. So we're anticipating that will be up in place by December 2022. Obviously, as part of that, there'll be further engagement. We're anticipating obviously sort of planning aspects to be moved forward as a result of that. Ideally speaking, in terms of the actual marina sort of construct and implementation, we're anticipating a timeline of delivery in March 2024. Exact date is to be confirmed as part of the full business case development. But we are sort of obviously looking at, doing that on a phased basis with the ability to bring in additional pontoons as required so we can see it grow and grow, and obviously work with the Harbours team to ensure that we can deliver that. I think that's about it from the presentation, but happy to obviously answer any questions that may be there, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. That was indeed a whistle-stop tour of your presentation. I should have perhaps gone to the recommendation 2.2 that we agreed to receive your presentation. No, you're fine. Simon, are you able to send that presentation to the members of the committee?
Certainly, yes. I can make sure that's circulated around.
That would be useful. I've got Councillor Young looking to come in, but just before I bring John in, one point that I have is, it's it clearly is an exciting prospect at Stranraer in terms of the marine expansion. I think it would be useful, certainly from my point of view as chair of the Harbours subcommittee, as to how this is going to affect ourselves as duty holders, and are we ensuring that we're working together? And it's a question that I'll perhaps raise in the next item as well. We do have, and we have, in item 4, we've just appointed, or we've noted the appointment of our designated person who is there to offer independent advice in matters of safety, etc. So I guess I'm looking for reassurance from yourself, from the team. Are we all working together, and will there be clear lines of who is responsible for what aspects of the expansion going forward, so we can be working together and ensuring that this really is a fantastic success for the whole region and the south of Scotland? So yeah, that would be my 1 point that I'd like to raise, please.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to that, we have there is a programme board, an internal programme board that's been established that obviously has representation from different services across the council to ensure that we are collaborating, that we are obviously working together in partnership. We have, as a result of that, we have people like Will and James McLeod, Stephen Herriot, who sit on that programme board and obviously input to ensure obviously that we're moving things forward. We continue to obviously try and reach out and make sure that we have the right range of services internally and externally of the council to obviously to input where required. So yes, we are working to try and minimise any issues of I suppose conflict and look at how we can obviously be very complementary and make sure that we manage things effectively and identify key leads within this, Chair.
Thanks, Simon. Councillor Young, I'll bring you in, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Simon. A very full and quick presentation, but very, very interesting. As we're all aware, building materials are shooting up in price because, well, it's because of Brexit, isn't it? But was 18 million earmarked for this project? If this project overruns, who's responsible for providing the extra funding?
Thank you, Chair, through yourself. Obviously, that's something that we would need to look at as part of the full business case and identify if there is a shortfall to come back and look at how we might identify that. We have factored in significant contingencies for material escalation in terms of prices, but as I say, we have the next 18 months to prepare that full business case and define the exact costings to ensure obviously that we can operate within the budget that we have. If it is looking that we are likely to extend and overshoot that budget, then we will need to obviously identify and bring back reports to ensure that we can identify a suitable level of resource to offset that. So in short, it hasn't been fully defined at this moment in time. We have contingency, but obviously we'll be managing that through the development of the full business case, Councillor Young.
Thank you very much, Simon. I'm just concerned that this may end up costing the Dumfries and Galloway Council well in excess of the £2 million that's presently set aside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Maitland, I see your hand coming up, please. Oh, I think you might still be on mute. Oh, if we just give it a few moments, I think maybe you're having slight technical issues, so I don't know if anybody else is looking to come in. Oh, no, maybe perhaps.
Am I now there with you?
You
yes.
are. Perfect.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
I was juggling between two devices. What I was going to say is that that was extremely interesting. I must admit, it's the first time I've really had some overall understanding about what is being proposed. And it's a golden opportunity, Simon, since you're sitting in front of us, to say to you that from an aesthetic point of view, boatyards are hideous. So I hope that if I just plant that idea in your mind, maybe you'll think about it when you're looking at the design from the very beginning, because there's no question about it. Getting these things right from the very, very beginning is the right thing to do. But I'm very enthusiastic about the idea of being able to see this marina very clearly from all along the quay front. I think that's exactly the right sort of thing to do to maximise the pleasure that non-boaty people can have, and that Stranraer will get the tourism benefit, because people are attracted to these things. The final question is, who will do the actual organisation of management? Will that be through this Harbours subcommittee? I mean, what we don't want is a vast boat park down there. We do want activity. You know, we want to make certain that there is movement and action and things to look at. Otherwise, you know, we've got the equivalent of a car park.
Thank you, Chair, through yourself. Yes, in relation to the first point, yes, I'll make sure that we factor in the design for the boatyard to try and obviously minimise any sort of nasty views on these things. In relation to how the marina will be, I suppose, eventually operated, that's something obviously that we are still very much in discussion with colleagues about, to ensure obviously that we get the right operating model. Like you've kind of identified, Councillor Maitland, we want this to be a success. We want this to be obviously sort of very much integrated into a one waterfront approach. We want to obviously see the marina and the sort of the waterfront as a hub, as a sort of a very vibrant opportunity, not just for people to come in and obviously have their boats there, but obviously for local residents, tourists, and everybody to enjoy the area as much as possible. So we are, as I say, we shall be looking at that very, very firmly through the full business case sort of preparation, and ensuring obviously that we come back with the right model that's going to provide us with the opportunity to have sufficient oversight, input, and obviously the aim is to move everything forward as part of the overall sort of regeneration of Stranraer.
Look forward to it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maitland. Yes, thank you, Simon. I sort of echo Councillor Maitland's sentiments there as someone who is very keen on, is it soft engineering, biodiversity, let's have some more trees, let's make sure that the right tree, and certainly I know in Stranraer there's an incredible group doing incredible edibles and planting up the town and really trying to bring the town alive and involve the whole community. We do have Dock Park right on the front there, and let's hope that, you know, it fulfills all our aspirations that we want it to. So thank you. I don't have any other members looking to come in, so I will move to the recommendation, which, if we've agreed to receive the presentation, is 2.1 is to note the project and the progress to date. Thank you. Thanks for your time today, Simon.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. I'll ensure that presentation is circulated around to members.
That would be good. Thank you. Thank you. So item number 7, our final item this morning, is on the Port Health Unit. We have Sandra Harkness here to provide a presentation and to assist if we have any questions. I will go to our recommendations first of all, because 2.2 is that we agree to receive the presentation. So are members happy to agree that one first of all?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. So again, it is a really important presentation and it's exciting times for us going ahead. So I will just invite you, Sandra, welcome to the committee, and we'll look forward to your presentation. Thank you. I'll hand over.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. I'll just share my screen now. Hopefully you can see that okay.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
So the purpose of the Port Health Unit, the official purpose will be to perform official controls of products of animal origin at border control posts. The legislation for that is not in place yet, so that will be at such time as the legislation does become in place. So we're not quite there yet. And actually, members may wish to note that in my report, I've said that the first checks will be starting in October. I've had confirmation from the Scottish Government just very recently that that's not going to be the case, and it probably won't be until January at the earliest. So products of animal origin is the phrase that gets used. This is what it means, really. It's meat products, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, honey, composite products that contain the above, which is could perhaps have plant product within it, but it would still be considered a product of animal origin if it had these in it, and also animal feed of animal origin. So we will need additional staff because we don't currently have enough staff within our service to cover this additional function. We will need environmental health officers. We're currently, as a contingency, training our environmental health officers that we have, so that we can step up if we have to very quickly, but they don't actually have capacity. So we will be anticipating a need for further environmental health officers and also veterinary officers, which are extremely important because we don't have any veterinary officers or anyone in the council who can do this work. So whilst we do have environmental health officers that we could use as a contingency, one of the first important roles that we will need to recruit will be a veterinary officer. They will be doing the same work as the environmental health officers, but for legislative purposes only. The law says environmental health officers can inspect and examine fish and fish products, whereas the veterinary officers are the only officers who can examine meat and meat products. So they will be doing almost identically the same job, but looking at different products. And the veterinary officer will be looking at meat, not animals. It's not our officers who will be looking at the live animals. The number of posts will depend on the throughput, and we're still actually gathering information on that. We don't really have a clear picture of what the throughput is likely to be. So the Port Health Unit will sit within the Community Protection Service, which is what I manage, alongside trading standards and environmental health. So there will be close working between trading standards and environmental health existing officers, but there will need to be a separate Port Health Unit. And one of the main reasons for that is that the staff working in there will be working on a shift pattern. They will probably cover 7 days a week. And in the fullness of time, we do anticipate that they will be working on a 24/7 basis. So they will be on different contracts and working different hours, because we know that a lot of goods will come through the night. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, staff that we currently have won't fit the model. So community protection, as of yesterday, was part of governance and assurance, is part going forward, and we sit in the Communities Directorate. In the actual external context of where this is going to sit, the Port Health Unit will be part of the Scottish Government Border Control Post, which will sit within the Scottish Government Inland Border Facility. It's called an Inland Border Facility because it won't be based at the existing ports of Stena and P&O, because there's not the infrastructure there. So it will need to be removed and sit separately to the ports. Therefore, it's called an Inland Border Facility. Within that, the Border Control Post will be part of the facility, and it's anticipated that HMRC and Border Force will also be accommodated there as well. They've indicated that they would like to form an office there as well. So the Inland Border Facility will have two aspects to it. The Border Control Post side of things will have 3 sections. It will have the produce section, which is what we will be looking at as the Council's Port Health Unit. And there will also be a plant unit, which the Science and Advice for Scottish Agriculture, SASA, Government Department will be housed there, looking at plant products, soil and potatoes, I think, as well. And then there will be the side that has live animals, which will be the Animal and Plant Health Agency. That's where there will also be vets that they will be looking at the live animals coming through, everything from farm animals, small animals, poultry and fish, live fish. So the Scottish Government announced the Cairnryan Border Control Post in their fact sheet in February. This is available online still. It's a guide to explain the need for the Border Control Post. There were some key points in there which I've summarised. And that's that Scottish Government are setting up the Border Control Post to help trade to flow from Northern Ireland. So it's incoming from Northern Ireland to GB when EU exit transitional arrangements end. Now, they have in the main ended, but we're not quite at a position legislatively and in the Northern Ireland Protocol where these checks are ready to start. You've probably heard in the news. So it's not commenced yet, but it is purely for goods coming in from Northern Ireland and arriving at Cairnryan, not going in the other direction. The BCP will meet the inspection, enforcement and containment requirements for products, plants and live animals, and able to accept a variety of vehicles. There are design drawings being drafted at the moment, and all of these things are taken into account. The type of products, whether it's frozen, chilled or ambient temperature, the types of vehicles, all of these are being accommodated by the design group into what will ultimately form the structure of the building. It will also have sufficient facilities for staff welfare and security, because depending on what the throughput turn non-council staff based there. So as I've said, it's freight into Cairnryan. that can be split into two different types. We have qualifying Northern Ireland goods. Anything from Northern Ireland will form part of that group. That's still being debated and discussed and not yet agreed with governments. So we don't know yet what that will be. So we're not in a position to be able to start doing those checks. So we won't be checking those, but ultimately the non-qualifying goods, which will be from EU or wider, which includes the Republic of Ireland, will be the other category of goods. So the qualifying Northern Ireland goods, once that is defined, will have unfettered access. So they will come straight through and won't require to undergo checks. The other group, the non-qualifying goods, when they come into the port, when they come off the ferry, they will be instructed if they're eligible for a check. We will have received paperwork first, so we'll know which ones we need to check. We're not sure yet how this will happen in practice, but they will be instructed to come to the inland border facility to be checked. So the process flow for that is that the business or haulier notifies the BCP that the goods are being transported into Cairnryan. There is a mechanism in place already for that. It's called IPAFs, and they will notify and log the details of their consignment onto there. Because of the short crossing route, standardisation at other ports is a recommendation to have 24 hours of notice, but ours is a short crossing, therefore we might only get 4 hours notice. So that has an impact on our staffing. We really need to be there pretty much all the time, and that's why ultimately we might need to cover, I think we will need to cover 24/7 basis, because as you're probably aware, the ferries come in every 4 hours. So we're not going to be able to just man up as and when required. I think we will need, ultimately, once this gets up and running properly, we will need staff to be there all the time, I think. So there are 3 types of checks: documentary checks of all relevant goods. So even if they don't come into the BCP, they will still have a documentary check, and that might determine whether they're required to have a physical check. Identity checks are just a comparison of what is in the vehicle and the documents to make sure that they're the same. If the vehicle comes through with a seal, which most of them will, then they don't require to have an identity check, because it's assumed if the seal is intact, then the contents have not been tampered with. The other category of checks is the physical checks. That will be on a defined percentage of consignments. Each type of consignment will have a different level, a different percentage of checks that are required. We don't have the full details yet of what they will be, but it will be a relatively small quantity in terms of the total number coming through. So as I said, we're now not anticipating that these will start in October. It's estimated currently January 2022 for the remote documentary checks, and then we won't be able to do the physical checks until the actual BCP building has been constructed and finished and is ready for us actually to work from, because we will need the facilities there to do these checks. And currently, we now think that's likely to be 2023 at the beginning. I did say in my report at the end of 2022, but Scottish Government in recent conversations are now talking about 2023. So all being well, that's when it's likely to be. There isn't any information available publicly on the inland border facility at Cairnryan yet, but I thought members might be interested in this website, which is, it's currently for Welsh Government, Department of Transport and HMRC, but it has details of the inland border facilities that are currently being built or are in existence. And I have been advised that Cairnryan Inland Border Facility will resemble, in terms of size and general design, the North Weald Inland Border Facility. So on the left-hand side, the facilities are listed. You can click on there and it will give you further information as to what that looks like, the layout and how it's anticipated to work. So members might be interested in looking at that in the meantime until we have any further information available. But that's me complete now. Thank you. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Sandra. It's quite an endeavour that we've got ahead of us in terms of completing this, and it's much appreciated you taking the time to come to the Harbours subcommittee. It's a similar question that I raised to Simon. We're sitting here as duty holders under the Port Marine Safety Code. We've got certain legal obligations, and certainly I think it would be really useful to know what is our role going forward, because there's a lot of talk about the Port Health Unit, and certainly we do have certain obligations under the Port Marine Safety Code that we have to, we're responsible for. I will possibly bring in William Heaps as our independent advisor, and I'm assuming that Marico, as a large organisation, has had experience dealing with other port health authorities, and it is new territory for ourselves here. And I just wonder, looking at the delegation to our committee here, we're not budget holders, but we're responsible for fulfilling our statutory duties. And I wonder if there's possibly a piece of work going ahead, or that we could action to go ahead to ensure that the correct delegations are with the correct committees, and just to ensure that we're all working together on that. But I will open it up to questions from members. I don't see any hands at present or any indications on the chat function, but I'll give it a few moments and see if anybody does want to come in. But thank you, Sandra. Oh, William, you've got your hands up. William Heaps from Marico, thank you.
But really, Katie, just to agree with you, I think your question is extremely well asked. What does this have to do with the Harbours Subcommittee as Port Marine Safety Code duty holder? And I think probably the real answer is not very much. The harbours in question are not your harbours. You don't have international freight going through any of the Dumfries and Galloway harbours. We're talking about freight going through two privately owned harbour authorities, with their own responsibilities. So I think really, from the Port Marine Safety Code point of view, the onus here is on the private companies. That said, in wider terms, your role is to make sure that as a harbour authority, you are aware of these requirements, and that should they be needed in your harbours, somebody deals with it. And you seem to be doing that in Spadefuls by getting a presentation before this has even come in, and you're aware of what's happening in your council area. But I don't think it's relevant to you just at the moment as the Harbours Subcommittee and duty holder. Very relevant to the council, of course, and where the money's going to come from. But I don't think that's your subcommittee to worry about.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you, William, for that. I mean, I am aware that there are landings from the Isle of Man at Kirkcudbright, and we do have a commercial aspect of landings in Stranraer. So it's just, how do those dovetail? But much appreciated for your professional input with that, William. I've got Councillor Maitland who's looking to come in, please. Jane.
Well, you've actually touched on what I was going to ask, which, Sandra, is the issue of certainly you can get landings, I think international landings to Kirkcudbright. I think it's the only place in our harbours that you can, in fact, specifically. I don't know, I can't remember what the actual wording is, what its official name is, but I'm pretty sure that we do have responsibility for something coming into Kirkcudbright. And what would happen at that point, if there was something that was not compliant?
Thanks, Councillor Maitland. I think that we do have some work to do to consider what would happen in those situations. It might be that if they're international landings, that they won't then be able to come in, but I'm not very sure on that. I will need to check, because currently we don't have a border control post, and anything that comes in when we do have a border control post will need to come in through the border control post. But that is for freight. That's not for actual boats themselves. They will, if it's fish, they will apply for a landing certificate, which we can provide for them. So it may be that that's all that's required then, but it's definitely something that we will need to check just to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maitland. Thank you, Sandra. I don't see anybody else with questions. As I say, it's an awful lot to take in there, and I'm hopeful that you can possibly share your presentation, Sandra, with members of the committee, because I think that would be very useful, because, yeah, just the amount of information going forward is quite a lot. So if members don't have any other questions, I will move to our recommendation, and the recommendation is to note the background information on the inland border facility and the Port Health Unit's purpose and activities, and we've already agreed to get the presentation. So thank you, Sandra. Are members happy to note that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. So item 8 is any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I don't have any urgent business. So I will draw the meeting to a close, and thank you all for your time this morning. Take care, and thanks, folks.